Dawson to present the bill.
This is a bill we passed in the House with basically no opposition some time ago. And I understand, Madam Chair, it's your desire to do a committee strikeout with the House bill, or you want to just go with the Senate bill?
You can go ahead, proceed, gentlemen, with the Senate bill.
Okay. So this basically provides for tribal identification, giving tribal identification cards the same status as driver's license, legal identifications, and if there are no questions, Madam Chair, I move title suspension do pass Senate Bill number 2020.
Thank you. You've heard the gentleman from Forrest's explanation of Senate Bill 2020. Are there any questions of the gentleman? Seeing none, gentlemen, what's your motion?
Title suspension do pass.
You've heard the gentleman's motion. Title sufficient to pass. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Is there a motion to, there is a motion. Is there a motion to table? All those in favor of the motion to table say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? The next bill that I'll call up is Senate Bill number 2087. I'm going to recognize the Vice Chair of the committee, Representative Reynolds, the gentleman from Tallahatchie, to present the bill. You need the mic, gentlemen.
We would propose the adoption of a committee substitute to this bill. The bill would authorize the disinterment of human remains, and it would provide that the costs of the disinterment or reinterment shall be paid by the next of kin, and it defines the next of kin, which would be the spouse, the children, the decedent's parents, the decedent's siblings. And so this would be allowed to be done, and the person, you know, you would have, this would be a voluntary basis, and they could reinter those or move them in the cemetery or take them to another cemetery, as the case may be. And they would have to bear the costs for doing so, and that would be the next of kin. The kin would be doing that. That's one thing, and that clarifies that provision. The next provision would be that any person that owns a cemetery would be authorized to disinter an individual, and it says to all pursuant to a final order by the Chancery Court by the county, the costs shall be paid of disinterment, and the related costs shall be paid by the persons or entities so ordered by the court. What we would have is that when you, for example, the language, and this would be conceptual, for example, on line 54, there is a provision that remains can be disinterred, and this would be where it was to correct an error in the site of the burial, or some other, say the cemetery owner had made a mistake, or there had been a mistake made. Under this Senate proposal, the next of kin would be noticed, and but they would be given certified mail no later than the 5th day after the date the remains are disinterred. We don't want to do that. What we want to do is to require, before the remains are disinterred, where there's a mistake made, that the family be given notice. And we realize mistakes can be made, but we think that it would be the better practice, particularly sensitive subjects like this, and that's what we have in the committee substitute. And so we think that this needs to go we need to adopt a committee substitute and change the Senate's language so that it will be that way. Basically, the bill except for the mistake language, we don't have too much difficulty with them. But where there's a mistake, we think in place of notifying a family after a body's been moved, notify them before the body is moved. And they might have other ideas as to whether they want the body to be moved at all. Do you see what I'm saying? So that's the proposed committee substitute, Madam. Well, the court procedure, where a court procedure is required, there would be, the court may order in its discretion upon such notice and hearing as the court may deem appropriate for good cause. There will be a hearing if necessary. And then the costs of the disinterment, reinterment, and related court costs shall be paid by the persons or entities so ordered by the court.
You've heard the gentleman's explanation of Senate Bill 2087. We do have a question, gentlemen. The gentleman from Madison, Representative Blackman, is recognized.
At the death of a spouse, has the right of control and disposal of the remains.
The gentleman, when a spouse dies, the decedent spouse would have control of that if the spouse has not remarried.
Would this change, you have an order of, in order here you have on line 28, in terms of disinterment, you have the deceased spouse, if spouse is not married, then you have, deceased children, parents, and siblings. Is that an order of priority there?
Yes, it would be. And it would be the order of priority, and that's.
Well, what I'm asking, will all of these people have to agree?
No, you don't, it wouldn't work that way. What you notify, the spouse, if there is a spouse that qualifies, that would suffice. If not, then the children, and then you move on away from there. The next of kin is defined, and it's a class. I mean, the next of kin is the spouse, and if there is no spouse, then the child. If there is no child, then the parents. No parents, brother and sister.
But it's really not clear, though, is it?
It is clear to me, and that's the way that it's done now. I mean, you die, your wife's going to have control over your body. That's the way that works.
Well, I was just wondering. I'm in the middle of one of these lawsuits now, and that's why I'm asking.
Well, I've seen it, gentlemen. I've seen it happen dozens of times. That's the way that it worked. The children of the first marriage and the second marriage and all this, but the wife says it's going to be that way. That's the way it's going to be.
Now, what I'm getting at is that I want to make sure that all of these people don't have a claim if the surviving spouse, decides that he or she wants to reinter the spouse. Say it's a fight about the gravesite not being well kept.
Gentlemen, if you have a concern, I tell you what we can do. As the process goes along, we got a committee substitute. We can, if need be, we can accommodate any concern that you have.
Well, it's pretty easy. All you have to do is give the right of priority in the
That's
language.
what we do.
Where is that at? It says a priority listed, and it lists several different categories.
It says, look, gentlemen, for purposes of subsection 1 of this section, the term next of kin means the following persons in the priority listed. And if you're in the priority of the first category, you get it. If you're in the priority of the second category, you get that. If there's a clear way to say it, I would like to do it, but that seems to do
might
it.
suffice it, gentlemen. We'll see.
Okay, well, I agree with you. Yeah, you're trying to be sweet. Okay. I think we need to pass this good bill. That's my motion. Committee substitute.
Are there any other questions of members of the committee? I do have a further amendment, though. I want to add a reverse repealer to the bill. If there's anything else that we need to clarify as it goes through the process, and then also just to address the court order issue, just to flesh that out a little bit more, or to determine if we need to, gentlemen, I want to add a reverse repealer to the bill. And that's my motion for that particular, well, I'm going to ask you, Madam Attorney, do we need another motion for that, or? Then we'll do the motion for, okay. You've heard my motion for, my proposed motion for a reverse repealer to be added to this bill. All those in favor say aye. Are there any opposed? You've heard the gentleman from Tallahassee's motion, and his motion is title sufficient due pass, committee sub. All those in favor say aye. Are there any opposed? Is there a motion? I see a motion, and there's a motion to table. All those in favor say aye. Are there any opposed? The next bill I'm going to call up is Senate Bill number 2324. I'm going to recognize the gentleman from Lafayette to present the bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Senate Bill 2324. All we're doing is extending a repealer on this bill, the bad faith assertions of patent infringement. So that's all we're doing.
And you've heard the gentleman's explanation of Senate Bill number 2324. Are there any questions of the gentleman? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Are there any opposed? Is there, I see a motion, is there a motion to table the motion to reconsider? All those in favor of the motion to table say aye. Are there any opposed? The next bill I'm going to call up is Senate Bill number 2621. I'm going to recognize the gentleman from Tallahatchie to present the bill.
Mr. Speaker, Mr. Chairman, Madam Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, what this bill
Here's
would
the microphone, gentleman.
What this bill would do would be to establish a task force to study Mississippi's laws regarding the awarding and calculating of child support, alimony, and other matters. It would set out the composition of this committee, and it would be the chairman of the respective Judiciary A committees, the designee of the Supreme Court, Chief Justice, two sitting chancellors, two practicing attorneys, with one from each federal judicial district, a practicing attorney who's a general practitioner, domestic relations, two practicing guardian ad litems, one practicing or retired attorney, expertise in disability law and domestic law, one designee in child support unit of the Mississippi Departments, one professor of law with experience in domestic law, and then one by Ole Miss and one by MC. And so it's a broad-based task force, and they would be required to make a report within 45 days of the effective date of this act. And they would be required to review models used by other states to determine child support. In other words, they would be getting evidence from what other states do and try to make sure that our laws are fair and keeping up with the times and the development in this field of law. And it's important, and we need to constantly review it. So this would be what this committee would do. And we've done things in the past like this and come out with some pretty good stuff, you know, when we looked at judiciary major changes.
You've heard the gentleman's explanation of Senate Bill number 2621. Are there any questions of the gentleman? I do have a proposed amendment. I'd like to add a reverse repealer to Senate Bill number 2621. Just as we go through the process, there may be some other topics or bodies of law with respect to this particular task force that deal with domestic matters that members may want to consider that we may want to add as it works its way, and then we may just want to leave it the way as it's drafted. But I did want to add a reverse repealer to it, just as it's working its way through the process. Some committee members may determine that we want to expand it in certain areas, and that's my proposed amendment, is to add a reverse repealer. Are there any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor of the proposed amendment say aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? Gentlemen, what's your motion?
The motion is title sufficient to adopt, strike all.
You've heard the gentleman's motion, title sufficient to pass, strike all. All those in favor say aye. Are there any opposed? I do see a motion to reconsider. Is there a motion to table? The gentleman from Lee moves to table. All those in favor say aye. Are there any opposed? That one's gone. The last bill that we have on the agenda for today is Senate Bill number 2253, and I'm going to recognize the gentleman from Lafayette to present the bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Senate Bill 2253 is a bill to give applicants of a concealed carry permit the option to not have to carry around a separate card. We could make that notation on their driver's license. Seems to be a little bit more efficient, and I think a good bill, and that's the explanation of what we're doing here.
You've heard the gentleman's explanation of Senate Bill number 2253. Are there any questions of the gentleman? You do have one question, gentlemen. The gentleman from Harrison, Representative Flesher, is recognized for a question.
Gentleman, you. On line 400 through 411, it basically goes through the process and states that you may take the option to have this combined with your license. My question is, if you know, how is that going to line up? In other words, my license expires on the 23rd, year 23. My firearms permit doesn't expire till year 24. Also, it takes me 90 days prior to applying for renewal, where with the license, you could probably just do a couple weeks. Do you know how that's going to work?
My understanding of the bill is it follows your driver's license expiration date and renewal date.
Okay. So it follows the license.
Follows your driver's license, not the concealed carry.
And if you wanted to go ahead and, if this passes and becomes effective July 1, and you wanted to go ahead and take advantage of the combined date, is that something you could be proactive on and go ahead and
Sure, you can certainly try.
Well, thank you, sir. That concludes my question, Madam Chair.
Thank you, gentlemen. Are there any other questions of the gentleman? Seeing none, gentlemen, what's your motion?
Title sufficient to pass.
You've heard the gentleman's motion, title sufficient to pass. All those in favor say aye. Are there any opposed? There is a motion to reconsider. Is there a motion to table? All those in favor of the motion to table say aye. Are there any opposed? That one's gone. Thank you so much for your attendance. The gentleman from Madison moves that we rise and report progress. All those in favor say aye. And no opposed. We have one last meeting tomorrow at 8:30 in the morning.
8:30. Now, it's going to take us 5 minutes.